You're listening to 106.2 FM IDC International Radio. This is Unpuzzling Terror, the show that brings you master's students from the IDC interviewing experts in the world of terrorism. I'm Itai Hanman. The master's student with me today is Aaron Graff. How are you, Aaron?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And in studio, we have with us Dr. Micheal Barak. Dr. Micheal Barak is a researcher at the Institute for Counterterrorism and the Lauder School of Government. He serves as a team leader of the Global Jihad and Jihadi Websites Monitoring Group and the team research manager at the ICT Cyber Desk. Dr. Barak holds his PhD from the School of History in Middle Eastern and African Studies at Tel Aviv University. Dr. Barak, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thanks you for having me.
We appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us on a wide array of subjects that are regarding the world of cyber terrorism. Recently, you gave a interview one-on-one on cyber terrorism as it relates to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And let us begin with first trying to understand what is the world of cyber, and then, I guess, how terrorism fits into that world.
The jihadi world, yes, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and also other terrorist actors like Hamas and Hezbollah, they perceive the cyber as a very important arena of a battlefield, yes? That means like using blogs, forums, YouTube, social media networks. It's a very important platform in order to export their ideology and to disseminate their ideology, to recruit people, even to fundraise donations. And ISIS, for example, took it far above, like let's say in 2014, after ISIS conquered a vast territory in Syria and Iraq, and absorbed many foreign fighters, they began to exploit the social media network to disseminate their ideology, videos, many propaganda, and also to terrifying, like a psychological warfare against the West. So they took it far above. It means, let's say, it's like Hollywood-style movies, very professional, and every video, every propaganda piece is tailored to a specific audience. For example, if they want to speak to Indonesian people, the Muslims, they publish a video that suits to them in that matter.
So they're able to, I guess, tailor each video to the audience that they're looking for. But before we get into a bunch of their propaganda and techniques, because that is something that both of us want to ask you about, maybe you can explain to the layman, which is the most of our audience, what is the cyber world? Because it's a word that is thrown out all the time, the word cyber, cyber. And I'm not sure if people really understand what cyber encompasses and if it is just this entire virtual world or is it something very specific. But our audience, I feel, deserves an opportunity from an expert to hear what is cyber exactly.
So cyber, of course, as you said, it's a virtual world. It reflects it's another arena that the terrorist actors are active on it, and it contains, I'll say, forums, blogs, chat rooms, and this is like it's for everybody can see it, yes. But if you are looking deep down, for example, dark web, this is the deep. Let's say, the other side of the internet, yes? People are not aware from that. What is the darknet? Yeah, the deep, and also using encrypted software programs like Telegram and WhatsApp. That means that Google cannot, if, for example, I want to find something in the internet, I just Google it, yes? But there are like specific URL that you cannot find only by installing, for example, Tor software. What is Tor software?
Gun and router.
It's an encrypted browser. Yes, not many people are aware from that. The terrorist attacks, the terrorist actors all the time, all this, the repeat on itself, it's important to use Tor in order to hide your tracks and not and to make it difficult for intelligence factors to track you. So you should use Tor, yes. And indeed, in this Tor, you can also browse, also in Google, yes, but also in this dark web, which Google cannot map. And the suffix for each address is onion. This is the unique for that Tor.
So how would a would-be terrorist or someone who's going to want to become a terrorist or join ISIS ultimately get led to a website, say, it has to be on Tor and it leads it to the organization, correct? I mean, so somehow it gets brought to their attention and they can find their way there?
Okay, so usually ISIS is the one, ISIS members are the ones that trying to locate specific Muslims in the West and to recruit them. So this has been, they're using, of course, dark web to do that, and using Telegram software. But maybe I should divide it, yes, because when if ISIS wants to recruit, if I'm understood you correctly, the question, if ISIS wants to recruit someone from the West, it has two options to do that. The first one is by inspiring people to, they want to mobilize the Muslims in the West to join to their cause, yes? Mm-hmm. So this is by publishing, disseminating films and audio messages that today the Islam world is in a deep crisis, yes? The coalition, the Western allies are attacking Syria and Iraq. The honor of the Muslim woman is being damaged. So Muslim in the West should do something, yes? You cannot sit on the chair watching television and do nothing. You should take initiative and go out. This is what they are trying to make, lone wolf operations. ISIS, also Al-Qaeda, mainly ISIS. So by this disseminating this ideology, they aim to inspire Muslims to go to the streets and to make action. Now, another arena is like, for example, there are forums in English and other languages, questions and answers. For example, young Muslim people, very minority, yeah, they are don't know what to do. So they are asking questions in these forums: what we should do, how can we contribute? Is it okay to sit at home, and what should we do? So these ISIS representatives, they are locating these guys, yes, and they answer them and they motivate them.
And that's either to be recruited to bring them over into the Islamic State or the new caliphate, which they had been establishing, or to actually just take up arms and commit an attack.
So they say, okay, if you are having the capability, it's better that you move to Iraq and Syria and or to Libya, to other jihadi theaters. Mm-hmm. If you are not able, for many reasons, so you should act in your own place because it's more comfortable. You know the customs of the place. You are accustomed with the language. You are familiar with the geographical location. So it's more easy for you to take an action and to make a lone wolf operation, like we saw, for example, in Nice, in Belgium, in United States also, yeah, Orlando. Mm-hmm. What this massacre. So maybe I should mention, for example, ISIS, part of its ideology, he has different media outlets, yes, in different languages. The main platform is Al Hayat media outlet, publishing this ideology, and also magazine Dabik, yes, and in Dabik specifically, and in Al Hayat, they speak about Hijra, immigration. You have to immigrate to the Syria and Iraq, or if you cannot, make action in your home. Yes, this is what it's called, homegrown terrorism.
Now, when you say, let's look at the recruitment process. Let's put it down to a person that wants to contribute. And what we have seen is there are up to, the numbers say, up to 30,000 foreign fighters in Syria and Iraq total from around the globe. No one specific country or anything in the 30,000, but around the globe they have estimated up to 30,000 foreign fighters are in Syria and Iraq. That does not include all the different little cells that they have built, as you've spoken about now, or homegrown terrorists that they've been able to radicalize or incite. If I'm on the internet and I want to go to Syria, is there a way to contact people within ISIS to help facilitate that? And what methods do they do?
Okay, so in the open internet, what I can see, they are publishing, for example, addresses in Telegram. If you want to join ISIS, you can go inside Telegram software, is an encryption software. And in that place, specific groups, you can have instructions how to immigrate to Syria and Iraq. And even, let's say I found in the forums, yes, some forum, jihadi forums, guides in English. There is a guy, Abu Hamza al-Britani, English, his origins is from United Kingdom. And he published a very detailed guide to Muslims that live in the West. What is the process, how you can go and join ISIS. So you have to collect intelligence. You should not tell no one about your intentions, how to immigrate. You have to take a small amount of money. Maybe this money can help also to us, to ISIS, yes? But you have specific instructions how to cross the border with Turkey. Yes, today it's more difficult because of all the political situation in Turkey, but still, you have very specific guides in different languages how to do it, even in not using dark web or Telegram. Yes, you can find it everywhere in the...
So if these are just out there for people to find, if you will, on how to get there, why is it so difficult for us to stop the flow of foreign fighters getting there if we know that how they're doing it?
Okay, it's a good question, but also there are also instructions how to make it difficult for intelligence factors to identify these people. So first of all, if you're crossing the Turkey border to Syria, you are not declaring your intentions.
Right.
Yes, you are coming maybe for humanitarian cause or others. So it's a disguise. You don't have to be public with that.
For sure. All right. Well, that takes care of recruiting. We know about communication, but let's talk about internal communication of these groups for a moment. How do these groups communicate with each other over the cyber world? Because, as you mentioned, you have WhatsApp, you have Telegram, where are encrypted end-to-end file sharing or messaging systems. But we also know that the NSA, Unit 8200 here in Israel, the cyber division in Israel, there are many MI6 outfits out there that are able to listen and figure out and track. So how do they communicate amongst themselves over the internet in a secure fashion that they know they're not being tracked by the NSA, Mossad, MI6, or any of the sort?
You meaning like when they're acting in the field, in the territory?
In the field, or even amongst themselves, just within Raqqa, for example. They have a special meeting, a planning of whatever that they're not going to want publicized, but they still communicate.
They're using satellites. It's more difficult to locate, to track them by these. And intelligence factors admitted that when they're using satellites, it's difficult.
We'll continue with just communication. So in the field, how do they communicate with one another via the internet?
Okay, so maybe I should say that ISIS also developed applications. You can install it on your device, smartphone. For example, Amaq, a news agency, which is reporting what is happening in the field. So every, let's say, fighter I think most of them having this application on their smartphone, then they can see what is happening. For example, official statements. Now we managed to conquer or to defeat Bashmarka, the Kurdish forces in north of Syria. Okay, so this is one device by application. Amaq application.
And that works not just as a communication tool, but then also as a propaganda tool too. They can use it to keep the morale of their fighting forces up and say, hey, look, we've been able to conquer this, even though maybe you're hearing that we're losing territory. Look, we are actually able to gain this.
Yeah, of course, they won't give you the right picture. They want to glorify their achievements. And also, maybe I should mention that I mentioned the social media networks, which ISIS exploited. Most of the fighters, they are having Twitter accounts, and in the Twitter accounts, they are writing, every fighter is writing, today I managed to do that and that. I have a difficult task, I had this and this. So we should remember, this is also part of the propaganda, we should remember that these also foreign fighters, they are having friends in Europe which follow after these Twitter accounts. So this is inspire others in Europe to join them.
Should that make it easier to be able to track any existing or would-be terrorists?
Good question. So, as I mentioned, ISIS and also other terrorist attacks, they are taking very seriously the issue of defense. You have to conceal your IP. You have to, in Twitter accounts, there is a possibility to hide your location, geographically locations. So they keep it. For example, maybe this is an exception. On May, last May, Al-Adnani, the spokesman of ISIS, yes, he called for the Muslim in Europe to go out to lone wolf operations against the West. Now, in order to show a sympathy and willing to do so, many sympathizers of ISIS in the West, in Sweden, in Britain, in Albania, yes, what they do, they uploaded pictures to Twitter with supporting declaration in Al-Adnani statement, and this is an exception. They revealed, they exposed the geographic location, and they took a very serious risk to be revealed. But this is also a part of the propaganda to show that ISIS, even that is been hit in the Middle East, is still having support in Europe, and Europe should be afraid. Again, psychological warfare.
So continuing with that psychological warfare, since 9/11, the worst terrorist attack that happened in the United States was the Orlando massacre not too long ago. Omar Mateen committing that horrific crime in the Pulse nightclub. What is very interesting to our subject matter right now is the fact that as he is committing the terrorist attack, he is actually posting things to Facebook and to social media as it is happening live. He is giving live updates of his own massacre that he is perpetrating. That took it to me, when I read that, when I saw that, took everything to a whole nother level. So the question comes down to now is, is that becoming a new phenomenon now that we are going to see live attacks being posted on social media? A. B. What do the authorities have in a way of combating that? And C. Are the social media networks complicit when they allow that to go up on their networks?
Okay, so yeah, it's a new phenomena. We were witness to that also in Germany in the last attack. It's using FaceTime. Yeah, it's lively, the broadcasting and declaring now we are going to make a suicide attacks against the infidels. So this is a new phenomena. It's very difficult to track. And I think Facebook is carrying a huge and heavy responsibility for that. I think more regulation have to be made in order to make Facebook to cooperate, in order to find these terrorists, potential terrorists. FaceTime is another story. Yes, because this is in the last moment. In the last moment, you know that somebody is going to do something. There should be a device or an algorithm to try to find it, and then the intelligence. Then it's the task of the intelligence factors to do something about it. But Facebook can do other things like to remove, pages, groups that try to incite and to provoke and to mobilize Muslims to terrorist attacks. For example, I myself found in Facebook Hamas movement All the time, yes, all the time. Uploading videos, how it is good to murder Jews. You should use knives to stab Jews. You should go to calling to the Arabs living in Israel to do that. Why it's good to explode buses. So I found a video like that try to show, yes, this, and I reported to Facebook, and I was surprised for good that they move it. They say, okay, you're right, we move it, but not all pages are being removed.
And just as easily, it can get added right back in again. It's the
Right.
internet. You take something down, somebody else uploads it right back up.
Yeah, it's a mouse and cat. It's a
Yeah.
problem.
So, understanding that that's the problem, or that is a part of the problem, what do you think the goal is on the terrorist perspective to doing this, broadcasting it live via FaceTime, putting it onto Facebook? Because not only that, it is a source of open intelligence for the police, for the intelligence units that, for example, in the Pulse nightclub, there were no eyes on the inside. They had no idea what was going on, but him posting things gave idea to police outside what was actually happening on the inside. So what is their goal of doing this when they also know they're giving up intelligence or secret information on their own attacks at that point when they are broadcasting it live like that?
So it's a psychological warfare. Try to terrorize, and immediately they go after that to make this operation, suicide attack.
Oh, fair enough. And then moving on now, we've touched on recruitment, we've touched on incitement, financing. Terrorist financing now via the internet is becoming a major factor when global commerce is dictated now via the web as well. You have trillions of dollars changing hands via a few codes, a few types into a keyboard, and all of a sudden billions and trillions are being transferred around the globe. Terrorists and criminal organizations are not new to using the exact same system to transfer their funding. We are seeing a lot of funding via different sources through the internet. What would you say is becoming a real factor in how terrorists are financing their operations using the cyber world?
Okay, so this is a wide phenomena. Yes, funding rising by the internet. Sometimes the terrorists or supporters of the terrorists, they pretend to be like a social organization, humanitarian, and they try to collect online in Twitters with campaigns money, and they publish the bank accounts and details in Telegram or email. If you want to donate a sum of money, you should contact with these details. So you find many campaigns like that, especially when you have people in the Gulf states which supporting, for example, Jabhat al-Nusra. Today it's changed name, but you have people, princes in the Gulf that support these factors. So it's more easily to collect money. Secondly, there are also, I should mention maybe the Salafi jihadists in Gaza Strip. Yes, they opened the campaign over 1 year. Nobody do nothing with that matter. They publish the details. We want to collect money in order to buy weapon and use it against Israelis in order to liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque. So you can find many banners, details, what we should do with the money, and this is all in around Twitter and Facebook.
It's legitimate?
No, it's not legitimate. Particularly the Salafi jihadist movement in Gaza, when they said nobody does nothing, I don't know why, but if someone is pretending to be a humanitarian organization, so you cannot prove that he is supporting terror. It's a problem. Abdallah al-Mukhaisini is a very important preacher in Syria. He's from Saudi origin. He's supporting Jabhat al-Nusra, Nusra Front. And from time to time, he launches campaigns in Twitter emphasizing why Muslims should donate money for the Mujahideen. So the Mujahideen can be like, he doesn't name who is the Mujahideen. They can be secular rebel groups or maybe Islamist, but it doesn't speak about Nusra Front. But the money is going to Nusra Front. So you can see this campaign with hashtag, and it's very expensive phenomenon.
And then you were saying that the reason that it's difficult to shut them down is you can't prove that they are legitimately actually providing. Like earlier, you had mentioned the transfer of funds to actual bank accounts, and so it's actually difficult to make the connection between the bank account and the terror group at the end of the day, and that's why it can't be stopped.
Yes, it's difficult to locate. For example, they use also one of the way to contribute is by Bitcoin. It's difficult to locate the source. Who gave the money, where the money goes to. There is a huge laundering.
Speaking of Bitcoin, how would a terrorist group like Hamas transfer its Bitcoin into usable cash to be able to buy weapons, hard cash for hard weaponry?
You mean like to a currency?
Yeah, how do you change Bitcoin? Because it is a virtual money. And I mean, I have read, I have seen, doesn't mean I actually understand that they have their own machines. You could put a card in there and transfer Bitcoin into American dollars, but something doesn't add up there.
This is one-way Bitcoin. So there are not, still we don't have enough information about this matter. What is going after you have a Bitcoin? Still research have to be made.
Fair enough.
Could a group like the Islamic State establish their own Bitcoin? And if that were the case, is that something that is even counterable? I mean, it would essentially have to be accepted on a global scale for it to work, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I don't know, but like if they're using a virtual coin?
Yeah,
except from Bitcoin, their own manufacture? I have not seen anything like that till now. Maybe they will.
We'll keep that between us then.
Politics seem to get in the way of a lot of things. When you hope that government and other personnel are taking care of you, sometimes politics get in the way of actual good work getting done. Now, the biggest, I guess our final question that we want to get to today is, how do we balance privacy with intelligence needs when it comes to the cyber world? We saw the Canadian government in 2015 try to pass a bill called C-51, which was passed, which gave intelligence organizations in Canada a lot more freedom. People were comparing it to the Patriot Act of the United States. Bill C-51 was very controversial in Canada because of Canadian society and their liberal attitudes and the sacredity that they take their freedoms and rights of privacy as Canadian citizens. The Canadian government passed this bill, opening up the ability for Canadian intelligence services to use signal intelligence on a much broader and grander stage. And not 24 hours after passing that bill, the hacker group Anonymous attacked them and shut down federal websites for 3-4 hours, as well as interfering with emails. And they post a video saying, this is because you are ripping our privacy rights away with Bill C-51. So again, back to the original question. Terrorists are using now the internet in full force. Recruitment, financing, incitement, plans, bombs, whatever is necessary, it's all on the internet and they're using it all. Thus, our intelligence organization also need to be able to combat it. They need access onto these websites and onto the internet and go over certain privacy rules, I guess, at the end of the day. Where do we strike a balance between complete anarchy in the sense of the intelligence communities can just go into anyone's Facebook page and do whatever they want, or where they can't even enter the iPhone, like we saw the San Bernardino situation where Apple wouldn't even allow them into the iPhone of a known terrorist that has committed a terrorist act already. Not even alleged terrorist. This is someone that committed a terrorist act. You couldn't get into their phone. So where's the balance? How do we find that balance?
So this is a good question. We're having this dilemma, which is the line that's crossing between privacy and to the right to sabotage a terrorist attack. So this dilemma, I made it in many forums, even in Sweden when I gave a lecture on that. If we are not going progress with that, we will be witness to more, of course, incitement and terrorist attacks. I think there should be more regulations in order to, let's say, to convince civilian factors like Facebook, Twitter, to cooperate with intelligence agency. I know it's a huge dilemma, but something has to be done. The, the,
No, I agree with you. Regulation has to be done, but where do we find that balance? Who do we need to speak to? Who are the people that should be finding that balance? Is it NGOs should be involved, ones that are active on human rights? Should it be society? Should we be sending a referendum out to the public of Israel and saying, do you guys want Shin Bet, Mossad, intelligence organizations to have access to your private stuff to be able to prevent terrorist attacks? Or is this something that needs to be done behind closed doors, a decision within government level, and that's that?
It should be raised to a debate among civilians. I know that maybe there will be a demonstration against already, we are witness, but a discussion should be made on that. I don't know where it will go ahead, but definitely there should be a public discussion about it.
Well, and that kind of is a lot of the question, which is that, you know, you have the Islamic State, which, for example, has their campaign going on Twitter. What is the average person doing? What can they do? Should we be starting, and I'm sure that they exist, but some sort of hashtag campaign against the Islamic State? When you have a group that's offering ultimate glory for coming and fighting for the Mujahideen, you know, it makes it pretty hard to counter that with like a little hashtag ISIS is wrong.
Yeah, look. Right now, there is a cooperation with civilian factors. Yes, against ISIS. It's called counter narratives. I will mention also in the West, also Sisi in Egypt recruited Al Azhar, which is the very important college, Islamic college in the world. It exists more than 1,000 years. And Sisi sent these preachers from Al Azhar to speak in front of young people in the West. Why ISIS is wrong, okay? Beside that, Al Azhar has a special unit sitting on cyber, yes, on the social media networks, monitoring religious justifications of ISIS, why it's good to make terrorist attacks. And the Al Azhar preachers, they having counter narrative. They give proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah, emphasizing that this ISIS proof is wrong. We have another proof that what ISIS is claiming is wrong. So we are witness to, that civilian, religious authorities, non-state actors also taking part in this big game against ISIS. And also Sufi sheikhs, which are been recruited by the West, sitting on Telegram, sitting on WhatsApp even, all these social media networks.
And I guess it's something that we haven't gotten too much in the media of, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more for us, though, was a while ago, the same group I just spoke about, Anonymous, threatened to take on ISIS. In cyber warfare, take down websites, take down Twitter accounts, I guess send them all kinds of denial of service attacks, because Anonymous is very good at that. Has that anything come of that? Have we seen Anonymous attack ISIS over the internet?
Yeah, of course. I saw myself. For example, in Twitter, there is someone that is saying that he belongs to Anonymous, saying, I concentrated a list of ISIS accounts, let's attack it. And then they attack it and they make it to collapse. Then ISIS also publishes its own list. Say, look, these guys belongs to Anonymous, let's fight against him. Let's report to Twitter that he is publishing inappropriate content. So we should. So there is this online warfare. Everybody tries to defeat each other.
Well, and on that online warfare note, you know, we're going to continue to see, as the groups continue to advance, an enhancement of their capabilities and what they're actually able to do with use of the internet. And of course, we're always working to put in protections and safeguards against it. But my question is, could a terrorist organization, has a terrorist organization committed an attack, or anytime even recently, last 5 years, on critical infrastructure or something that can...
Okay, it's a good question. I'm glad you mentioned that. Al-Qaeda and ISIS justified what it's called electronic jihad. Yes, a warfare against the West, sabotage, infiltrate to sites that are responsible on infrastructures, banks. Okay, they want to make a chaos because this emphasize, for example, Abu Shinkiti, never mind. One of the scholars of Al-Qaeda say that one of the pillars that United States is standing is the economic pillar. If you manage to collapse it, then it will be like a domino effect. United States will lose its strength, and also in the Middle East, its allies will not have a strong ally. So also the Arab regimes will fall down. So that's why it's important to concentrate on the economic pillar. So these hacker teams that I identified with ISIS, for example, United Cyber Caliphate, they also emphasize this aspect. We should fight against the economic factor, going to try to hack to infrastructures. But they're speaking about it. This is in their conscience. But right now, the capability to do that is in a low level. But we are witness to translations of hacking guides, softwares. Yes, they all the time they have specific forms for that, only for cyber. What they're having also online courses for hacking, okay, defense. What we should do, how we should hack. Now we are in a position, in a level of studying the enemy. When we will have enough strength and knowledge to do that, then we will attack. So right now, we were witnessed, for example, for let's say ISIS sympathizers managed to hack to the French TV5, if I'm not wrong, and they close it. There are success in that matter, but not hacking to infrastructures. But there is a success also, part of the psychological warfare. For example, they are managed to hack to databases, for example, of the Marines, US Marines, and then the ISIS publish hit list. Look, this guy is living in this place, not only military men, but also people that are involved in the economy. We should assassinate him in that or that. For example, Bill Gates, also this Al-Qaeda mentioned, Bill Gates is one of in the target list. So
no, that's very, very interesting. I think I want to close the conversation with you, Dr. Barak, and ask you, what do you think is the foremost challenge on the cyber world for the intelligence and the defense organizations challenging these terrorist groups?
So dark web, I think it's a very huge challenge, okay? In order to reach to these places, to see what is going on in that place, what they are discussed. Sometimes you succeed in that, sometimes not. This is a first challenge. The second challenge, as you mentioned, the line between privacy and the right to see what the other potential terrorist wants to do. So
fair enough. We're going to take that as closing remarks, as the challenge to intelligence organizations and defense establishments is to find the right balance between privacy rights and the need for information, as well as the dark web, which seems to just be an ever-growing wild, wild west, and with no real ground rules on how to operate in the dark web there. Dr. Barak, before we let you go, very insightful, very enlightening conversation here. And for anyone that wants more information or feels they need more understanding on the subject matter, where can they go find your work? Where can they find your papers, your research?
The ICT website.
At the ICT website, look up Dr. Micheal Barak. Once again, thank you to our master's student, Aaron Graff, for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you for having me again.
Dr. Micheal Barak, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, coming in, joining us, and enlightening us with a very interesting conversation.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day.